The blind millionaire's shocking wedding twist when they tried to swap his bride at the altar. The grand ballroom sparkled like a galaxy. Chandeliers dripping crystals, golden candelabras flickering shadows across the eager faces of the elite. Victor Thorne, the blind millionaire known for his sharp mind and steely will, stood tall at the altar. His heart pulsed wildly beneath his tailored tuxedo. Tonight, he was about to marry Elena, the love of his life. Every breath hummed with anticipation. Every murmur buzzed like electricity. But beneath the glittering perfection, something twisted in the air. Unnatural, unsettling. Victor's other senses sharpened. A faint scent of jasmine, mixed with something colder, metallic. A whisper moved like a shadow between the guests, anxious eyes darting, barely contained murmurs rippling through the crowd. A woman in a shimmering black dress glanced furtively from the sidelines, her gaze sharp as a blade. Malcolm Bennett, Victor's ruthless. The atmosphere thickened with tension. Something was off. So much more than nerves. Suddenly, the music shifted. The carefully planned melody skipped, leaving a long silence. The candles flickered unevenly, sending dancing shadows across the ceilings. Elena appeared by Victor's side, but then the crowd gasped. No, this wasn't Elena. The woman's eyes, bright and wild, met Victor's face, and panic slammed into his chest like a fist. Malcolm's moment of triumph. The imposter's lips curled, a grim secret burning behind her smile. Time fractured. Whispers exploded into sharp gasps. The guests, frozen in shock. Who is she? Is she Elena? What is going on? A low murmur of betrayal and confusion spread like wildfire. Victor's breath hitched, pounding in his ears. His hands trembled. His mind raced, desperate to decode this nightmare by sound, by scent, by the rhythm of a heartbeat. The woman was a stranger, but there was a claim wrapped around her, a dark thread that tied this stranger to Elena's past, to a secret that threatened to shatter everything Victor had built. Malcolm's cruel scheme had plunged Victor into chaos, a trap woven with lies and long-buried family shadows. Victor sensed the walls closing in, the ground shaking beneath his feet. His trust shattered like glass in his palm. But somewhere, under the flood of panic and fear, a stubborn ember of hope flickered. The truth was out there. He just had to find it before it was ripped away forever. The moment stretched. All eyes burned on him, on the woman at his side. Victor's heart pounded louder, faster. His next words could change everything. But before he could say, chaos erupted. Victor stood frozen at the altar, blind but not broken, caught in a storm of lies and love. The night had just begun, but the real fight for his heart was only starting. Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Chaos erupted. Gasps, whispers, and the rustle of silk filled the air. Victor stood frozen, his heart racing, as the strange woman flashed a gleeful but twisted smile just inches away. The thrill of the moment turned cold and uninviting. "Who are you?" Victor managed to choke out, his voice steady despite the sinking panic threatening to consume him. "Your destiny," she hissed, her voice like ice, slicing through the heat of the ballroom. The crowd was a blend of stunned faces. Guests shared quick glances that mirrored his own rising dread. Elena, where was she? The voice in his mind screamed louder than the chaos around him. Victor strained to catch a whisper of her scent, hoped to hear a hint of her sweet laughter that always calmed him. Nothing. Just tension, fear, and the bite of jasmine mixed with something sinister. The band was frozen, their instruments resting like forgotten dreams. Then, abruptly, a loud crash shattered the stillness. An unseen waiter dropped a tray of champagne flutes, glass shattering like Victor's peace of mind. "Victor," a familiar voice broke through the noise. It was Evan, Victor's closest friend, rushing forward. "You need to step back!" But it was too late. The woman seized Victor's hand, her grip unyielding and desperate. He could feel her heart racing, the erratic beat matched with a calmness that unnerved him. "I'm here to tell you the truth," she said, her breath hot against his ear. "About your father, about everything." Victor's mind spun. "What do you mean?" "I am Athena," she revealed, her voice lowering. "Elena's sister." The words hit like a freight train. Confusion twisted so painfully, he felt the ground shift beneath him. The crowd gasped again, their murmurs taking a life of their own. "Sister? Elena has a sister?" The voices, shocked and appalled, filled the ballroom with disbelief. "Yes," Athena continued. "You were never meant to marry her. This was all a game, planned by Malcolm. He's been pulling the strings, using our family's past to destroy everything you've built." Victor's heart pounded. He could hardly comprehend the revelation. A sister concealed in shadows. How could she hide you? "Because Elena never wanted you to find out. She took my identity to escape the mess we grew up in." "You don't know who you're really marrying, Victor." The room buzzed with chaotic energy. Victor's breath caught in his throat. Who was Elena really? Her laughter echoed in his mind, now laced with betrayal. Then a sudden movement caught his attention. A figure in a flowing white gown burst through the crowd. It was Elena, her eyes wide, filled with panic. "Victor!" she cried. But just as she reached for him, Athena threw her head back, releasing a laugh that sent shivers down his spine. "You're too late," Athena said. venom saturating her words. The truth is out, and the game has just begun. Extreme tension coiled in the air. Victor's mind reeled with this dizzying reality. Just as everything felt familiar, it flipped like a wild card. Secrets shattered. Relationships flipped upside down. "Victor!" Elena shouted again, the desperate plea in her voice pulling at him. What had he lost? What else lay hidden beneath this dark web? And with Malcolm still looming like a dark cloud, the fight wasn't just for love anymore. It was a battle for truth. One thing cut through the chaos. The night was no longer a celebration. It was a reckoning, and it was just getting started. Victor turned at the sound of that familiar voice, desperate to understand what was happening. Elena's wild eyes, glistening with unshed tears, were locked on him. Each second felt like forever. They were suspended in that moment, the air thick with confusion and betrayal. "Victor, please," she begged, her voice trembling. The urgency in her tone cut through the chaos like a knife. "You have to trust me." "Trust you?" he replied, disbelief heavy in every word. He felt his stomach drop. "You knew about Athena? You lied to me." But before Elena could respond, a tremor ran through the ballroom. The grand chandeliers above swayed slightly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The guests, previously buzzing with whispered exchanges, fell silent. A heavy thud followed, a sound that seemed to come from nowhere, yet echoed with dreadful certainty. "Elena!" Victor shouted. He reached for her hand, but she was already stepping back, her expression morphing into something unrecognizable. Fear mingled with determination. Suddenly, the front doors of the ballroom burst open with a crash that felt like thunder. Everyone turned, their faces a portrait of horror, as a heavily dressed man stumbled in, his clothes disheveled and stained, eyes wide with panic. "Get out! Run!" he screamed. "What is it?" someone whispered. A chill running through the crowd. There was a chorus of gasps, and then a collective shift as guests began inching toward the exits, questions hanging in the air like smoke. Victor felt his world tilt as he tuned into the chaos. The man was frantically pushing through the crowd, and then he locked eyes with Victor. "You don't know what's coming," he spat out, clenching his fists. "Malcolm, he's not just playing games. He's about to start a fire that could burn everything down." Victor's heart raced. He had always felt Malcolm's presence lurking in the shadows. But this? Was he threatening lives now? Everything spun as his mind grappled with the implications. His relationship with Elena, his future, his entire legacy. The man took another step forward, voice steady but shaky. "I was there. I saw it. The plan. They're ready to destroy anyone who stands in their way." "Who are you?" Victor demanded, steeling himself, though every instinct screamed at him to flee. Even as he said it, a chill crept up his spine. How many people had been caught in Malcolm's web? "Your father," the man replied, and the words hung in the air like an icy breath. Stunned silence blanketed the dance floor. Victor's breath hitched, his heart thumping painfully in his chest. "What are you saying?" "I'm your father's brother," the man continued, voice trembling from the weight of his truth. "Elena's father. He forced me into hiding because I wanted to expose Malcolm. He knows everything, Victor. He's been manipulating our family for years. But you're the only hope we have to stop him." Victor's world narrowed as the pieces fell together, like a jigsaw puzzle. But the picture was more grotesque than he could have imagined. The man was family. The implications crashed down on him like a tidal wave. Elena, shocked, stepped closer, her voice a whisper. "Victor, we have to trust him." Time seemed to freeze again, their lives now hanging by a thread. Just as Victor opened his mouth to speak, a sharp explosion rocked the ballroom. The blast of sound sent the guests screaming into a frenzy, scattering like startled birds. "Run!" he shouted, pulling Elena to him, instinctively shielding her as the chaos erupted. Shadows and bright flashes of lights mingled with the scent of smoke filling the air. In that heart-stopping moment, Victor realized they were trapped in a game far more dangerous than any cocktail party, a twisted reality where nothing was what it seemed. And as they plunged into utter turmoil, one thought screamed inside him. Who could he trust now, when everything felt like a betrayal? The night was far from over, and the truth was just beginning to unravel. Victor pulled Elena to him, his heart racing as he tried to shield her from the chaos erupting around them. The smoke from the blast wrapped around them like a living thing, throbbing with danger. He wanted to trust her, wanted to believe they could get out of this madness together. But his trust fell thin now, fraying at the edges with each revelation. His mind raced. Malcolm's plots, Athena's truths, the smoking man's wild claim about their family. It all tangled together like a knot he couldn't untie. Suddenly, another crashing sound silenced the crowd. The grand doors were flung open again, and an even more disheveled man stumbled inside. Panic etched into every feature. Victor could barely make out the sobs and murmurs rippling through the guests, faces pale with disbelief. "Get down!" the newcomer yelled, darting forward. His hands shook wildly as he pointed toward the back of the hall. "They're coming!" Victor's heart thundered as a series of loud bangs echoed from the entrance. The smell of gunpowder mingled with the smoke, and adrenaline surged through him like ice water. Faces turned toward him. "Run!" the man yelled again, his voice breaking. "He's here! Malcolm has men!" Terror swept through the room like fire, igniting a desperate scramble. Guests shot toward the exits, heels clicking, and shoes sliding on the polished floor, shrieks of fear intertwining with the chaos. Victor didn't think. He grabbed Elena's hand, pulling her toward an exit, but hesitation froze him in place. "Wait!" he shouted, his voice lost in the tumult. "What about my father?" He could feel Elena's fear pulsing through their joined hands. "We can't think about that now. We need to get out." Before he could respond, the disheveled man stumbled again, catching his breath. "Victor, you must listen." He sounded frantic, desperate. "Malcolm has been planning this for years. It's not just about money. It's about revenge. Victor felt the air leave his lungs. Why? What did we ever do to him? It's not you, the man said, his voice low but urgent. It's your mother. Malcolm thinks she betrayed him in some way. It's a blood feud, Victor. Blood feud, Victor whispered, disbelief clawing at him. But just then, the doorframe burst inward, and a group of masked men flooded into the ballroom. They moved with precision, weapons drawn, eyes scanning the crowd, and dread settled in Victor's gut like a lead weight. "Run!" Elena screamed, pulling Victor toward the side exit. But he stayed glued to the floor. He felt the pulse of the room shift, and as his focus sharpened on the chaos, something clicked. "Victor!" A voice sliced through the noise. Athena. She stood near the edge, eyes wide with fear. "This isn't over. You have to remember." But she was cut off as one masked gunman found her, a shout of recognition on his lips. The tension spiked, a betrayal hanging in the air. The gunman lunged at her, but in that heartbeat, Victor's mind shattered open like glass. Athena wasn't just a sister. She was a pawn in a much larger game, from the beginning. With a swift motion, Victor stepped forward and shouted, "Stop! You can't have her!" Instinct seemed to drive him, a fierce protectiveness igniting like fire in his veins. The masked man turned, surprise painted across his face, just as Victor felt a sharp pain slice through his shoulder, dropping him to his knees. Pain exploded, but the world blurred, and he could still hear Elena's scream echoing through the haze. "Victor, no!" In that moment of agony, Victor realized they were all part of a twisted web, each strand tying them together in a deadly game. The shock and betrayal crystallized, turning the ballroom into a battlefield, a theater of secrets laid bare. The chaos kept swirling, his vision blackening as he thought of Elena, of the life he thought he could have. The questions surged through his mind. Who were the real enemies? And more importantly, who could he trust when his own blood was stained with betrayal? Victor dropped to his knees, the sting in his shoulder radiating through his body like an electric shock. He gasped as the stranger shouted again, his eyes wide with terror. Victor glanced up, vision swimming, as masked figures moved through the crowd. They looked determined, ruthless, and the weight of their intent pressed down on him like an iron shroud. "Victor!" Elena's voice pierced through the panic. He turned, searching desperately, but Elena was lost in the fray. Adrenaline surged. He had to find her. A loud crash echoed above the cacophony, drawing his focus back to the chaos. The lights flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced across the ballroom. As he struggled to rise, a familiar voice rang out, a cry that was unmistakable. "Victor, help!" Victor's heart plummeted again as he realized who it was. Athena was caught in the crowd, cornered by one of the masked intruders. Without thinking, he surged forward, pushing through the scrambling guests who stumbled past him in sheer panic. "Let her go!" he shouted, each word fueled by a fierce fire of protectiveness. But the masked man's grip was unyielding, dragging Athena closer. "Victor, no!" she gasped. And just as he reached out, the man lifted a weapon, pointing it directly at her head. Time slowed, every heartbeat thudding painfully in his chest. The world around him faded. All he could see was Athena's terrified face. "You don't have to do this," Victor yelled, desperation clawing at him. "You can walk away!" But then something unexpected happened. The masked man paused, tilting his head slightly as if reconsidering. An unsettling chuckle escaped his lips, and for a moment the fear receded, replaced by confusion. "You think you're the one in charge here?" he said, voice dripping with disdain. "None of you know the real game." Just as Victor's mind raced to grasp the words, a sudden flash ignited the room. A blinding burst of light that made everyone shrink back in shock. Victor shielded his eyes, trying to comprehend the sudden brilliance. In that moment, the masked man dropped his weapon. The same moment he turned to flee, vanishing into the chaos. The crowd swayed like a tide, confusion layered over panic, and then everything changed. As the light faded, a figure appeared at the entrance, tall, commanding, glowing almost. It was a woman dressed in vibrant red, her features strikingly familiar. Victor's breath stilled. "Mother?" The utterance slipped from his lips, barely a whisper. She had been gone for years, buried under layers of secrets and unspoken words. But there she stood, alive and well, a guardian angel in a storm. "Victor!" Her voice rang out, full of urgency. "We have to leave, now!" Eyes around the ballroom widened in shock. Whispers blended with gasps. "Is it really her? How is she alive?" But Victor felt everything shift beneath him. The hurt, the years of loss, and the longing surged to the surface. "You were dead!" he shouted, the raw emotion spilling out. But just as he stepped forward, something cold flashed in her eyes. "No time for questions," she hissed. "I've come to save you." Her words struck him like a slap. Save him from what? From whom? What was real and what was simply a lie? Victor's mind raced. The room felt like it was spinning, buried pasts overlapping with a terrifying present. But before he could grasp the implications, Elena reappeared, breathless and wide-eyed. "Victor, we need to get out of here." He turned to his mother, frustration mixing with disbelief. "And you? Why now? What's going on?" But as he opened his mouth to demand more, a deep, unsettling laugh echoed through the air. Malcolm had entered the fray, untouched by the panic, a smirk etched on his face. "Did you really think this would end well?" he drawled, eyes gleaming with malice. "The game has only just begun, and you've all played right into my hands." Victor's stomach dropped. Everything had just twisted into an unbearable knot. His heart pounded in his ears as reality crashed down. There were hidden motives beneath the surface, shadows lurking, trust shattered like glass in an instant, leaving only shards of uncertainty. "Mother, why?" Victor whispered, caught in a tide of betrayal. And just like that, Victor realized the truth was far more than he could ever imagine. How deep did this rabbit hole go? What other lies awaited them? As Malcolm's laughter echoed, Victor knew the real battle was only beginning. Secrets lingered, dark and dangerous, but there was no choice but to confront them head on. The question remained: who would emerge from the ashes untouched? As Malcolm's smirk deepened, Victor felt the air grow heavier. He had never known such dread. The chaos around them felt like a stage gone awry, where everyone was tripping over their lines. "Malcolm," Elena shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. "You think you can control this?" "Oh, my dear, it's not about control. It's just unavoidable." He chuckled, the sound echoing off the once grand walls. Victor's heart pounded. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the weight of it all felt suffocating. Then something unexpected shifted in the room. A sudden crash came from the far side of the ballroom. The flickering chandeliers cast frantic shadows as a figure stormed through the broken doors, ragged and wild, eyes blazing with determination. "Stop!" she shouted, her voice fierce, slicing through the confusion. Victor squinted into the chaos. "Who?" But before he could finish, the figure pushed forward, and the spotlight shifted onto her. A woman drenched in adrenaline, her hair tousled but fierce. It was Sarah, Victor's childhood friend. He barely recognized her. "Sarah!" he called, confusion breaking through his panic. "What are you doing here? Victor, we don't have time! They're coming for you!" She was frantic, urging him to move, her gaze darting over the crowd. At that moment, the masked figures shifted, locking their eyes on her. Victor's heart dropped. "Sarah, no! Get back!" But it was too late. One of the masked men lunged, tackling her to the ground. The ballroom echoed with screams, chaos erupting anew. Elena shot forward, her face a mix of horror and urgency. "Victor, we can't!" But another loud crash cut through their words, sending shards of crystal raining down. Victor's breath caught. The urgencies of this shocking moment, the cries of the crowd, everything wrapped around him like a vice. "Stop!" Sarah cried, struggling beneath her captor. Another masked figure approached, weapon raised. "No!" Victor shouted, pushing through the crowd. But in a split second, something grabbed Sarah's wrist, and suddenly she was on her feet, eyes wide. "Victor, listen to me!" she shouted, her voice a mix of terror and something darker. "You have to know the truth. I'm not who you think I am." "What do you mean?" Victor demanded, feeling the ground shake beneath him. "I'm buried deeper than you can imagine," she exclaimed. "I was working with Malcolm. A wave of shock rippled through Victor, leaving him staggering. "You? How could you betray me?" "It was never a betrayal. I did it to protect you." She fought against her captor's grip, trying to reach him. "Your mother, she's not just a victim in this. She's the key." Victor's stomach dropped, the pieces of their lives spiraling. "What?" he gasped. Suddenly, the floors trembled as Malcolm broke into laughter. You see? You're all pawns. Think you can escape? Think again. With that, the lights flickered violently again, plunging the room into darkness. Panic soared as people screamed, rushing toward the exits. But before anyone could react, a voice boomed through the darkness. Everyone, stay where you are. Victor's blood ran cold. It was a voice he recognized. Mom? He whispered into the abyss. Lights flickered back to life, and there she stood, his mother. But the wild determination in her eyes was mixed with a sadness that sliced Victor's heart. Victor, she began, but a sudden thundering growl interrupted her. The ceiling above cracked, chunks of plaster raining down. Dust filled the air like a storm. Victor could barely breathe. Run! Sarah screamed, and Victor grabbed Elena's hand, the weight of betrayal now feeling heavy as lead. But as they turned to flee, his mother raised her hand, eyes blazing. No, you must face it, Victor. The truth must come out. Then, with a horrifying twist, the ceiling gave way. A massive beam came crashing down, and time froze. It was not just the end. It was the beginning of something darker than any of them had imagined. A chasm of unanswered questions and revelations loomed, ready to swallow them whole. As darkness swept through the room, Victor felt his heart quicken. The true nature of his life, his family, everything was about to shatter. Would they ever uncover the entire truth before it consumed them? Victor struggled to process the chaos around him as the ceiling trembled above them. Noise and panic blended into a cacophony, accompanied by the dust swirling thick in the air. As the beam crashed down, he felt a terrifying jolt of electricity shoot through the room. His mother stood resolute, eyes focused on him. But it all felt surreal, like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. Victor. She reached out as the chaos began to unfold around them. You have to trust me. But before he could respond, a loud roar echoed, shaking the foundation of the ballroom. The ground quivered beneath his feet, and the room erupted into chaos. Guests screamed, scrambling for the exits as fear gripped them. It felt as if the very ground was swallowing them whole. Elena! Victor yelled, turning towards where he last saw her. But the crowd had swallowed her, faces shimmering in the chaotic Mom, we need to go, he shouted, feeling panic rise in his chest. But as if orchestrated by some unseen hand, the lights flickered once more before plunging them into darkness. A deal was struck. A cold voice echoed through the shadowy chaos, sending a shiver down Victor's spine. Malcolm! Victor screamed, trying to locate the source of his relentless tormentor. The game is not over yet. Malcolm's laughter boomed, filling the dark room like poison, seeping into open wounds. Then, out of the shadows, a figure stepped forward. A man dressed impeccably, with a sharp, cruel smile that sent a chill racing through Victor's entire body. It was a man he recognized, though he had thought he'd never see him again. "Father?" Victor whispered, disbelief mingling with shock. With a low, mocking chuckle, the man stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Did you really think you could outrun your destiny, Victor? This night is merely a beginning I planned long ago." Victor felt the pieces of his world crashing down around him. His father, believed to be dead, was alive and part of this twisted game. The threat of Malcolm suddenly shifted, rippling through the crowd of onlookers who had turned back in stunned silence, now breathing the same heavy air, laced with betrayal. "Victor, don't listen to him!" Elena's voice cut through the fog of shock, but it was too late. "Don't be foolish, Elena," the man sneered. "You have no idea what your love has unleashed." Victor's breath hitched. What did he mean? What had been unleashed? The room felt tighter, the shadows closing in around them. His heart raced in time with the drumbeats of betrayal and confusion reverberating in his mind. But then, as Victor took a step back, gripping the edge of the altar for support, the light surged back with a blinding flash, illuminating everyone. There, at Malcolm's side, stood Athena. Her expression suddenly transformed from frightened to one of fierce determination. "You think you know everything?" she shouted, her voice slicing through Malcolm's chaos like a blade. "But you're wrong." The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers rising into the atmosphere. Victor's heart pounded as he absorbed the sight of Athena standing defiantly against Malcolm. Her eyes burned. "I'm not just any sister, Victor," she continued, her voice steady. "I concealed the truth about our family, not out of malice, but to protect you. Malcolm is not the real enemy here. It's—" But before she could finish her sentence, lights flickered again, and a deafening crash erupted from the back of the ballroom. "Victor!" Elena screamed. Chaos erupted anew as people scrambled, but amidst the disaster, a single figure emerged from the dust. His mother, stepping forward, eyes blazing. "In this family, the betrayal runs deeper than blood," she said, her voice echoing like a mournful dirge. Something in her gaze shifted, revealed truths that had been strangled in silence. Victor could hardly breathe. Betrayal embedded in every relationship. Secrets tangled like vines choking the light. "What do you mean?" he gasped, disoriented. Then she turned toward Malcolm, eyes burning with a mix of anger and defiance. "You won't take him from me again," she spat, her voice charged. "Take him? I merely intend to end this farce together," Malcolm shot back, an errant grin on his lips. Victor felt the ground shift again as the walls of truth began to crack, revealing a core he never expected. "Stop!" he shouted, horror and realization dawning at the same instant. "What are you hiding?" In the midst of the turmoil, his mother's face softened, yet it was layered in determination, eyes locking onto his. "I never wanted you to have to choose a side, Victor, but the moment to reclaim the truth is now." Before she could finish, another explosion echoed, shaking the very foundations of their reality. The room lit up in a violent blaze, leaving them trying to discern what shocking truths lay beneath the chaos. Victor's heart raced as he thought about the legacy of lies and betrayals swirling around them. He felt raw, exposed, like a nerve laid bare. What awaited them in the shattered remnants of everything they thought they knew? In that moment, the final pieces began to fall into place. A reckoning was coming, and with his family unraveling around him, could he find the strength to confront the darkest secrets buried deep within? Victor felt the tremors of the collapsing ceiling echo deep within him. He stood frozen, chest tight, as his mother's piercing gaze bore into his, loaded with urgency and fear. The chaos of the ballroom swirled in a painful blur. The truth was right in front of him, thick with shadows and cries. But just as he felt the ground beneath him shift, the shriek of metal gave way to a deafening silence. And then it happened. A blinding light erupted from the far side of the room, cutting through the chaos. Victor squinted as the brilliance intensified, enveloping them all. Shadows danced wildly, casting a surreal glow on every terrified face. Fear clenched his heart at the thought of what was about to show itself. When the light faded, a figure emerged, stepping boldly from the shimmer, tall and regal. It was a woman, but not just any woman. There was something What is happening? He thought, trying to process the sudden arrival as his heart raced. Victor! The woman's voice dripped with familiarity, a warmth that pulled him closer. It's time for you to know the truth. Truth? He echoed, confused and bracing himself for the revelation. This night couldn't get more puzzling. Then, she stepped into the light, and recognition washed over him like a wave. You were her? He dared to whisper, his heart racing faster, as shock turned his legs to jelly. Yes, my love, she replied, tilting her head slightly, her eyes bright with intensity. I am your mother, but there's more, much more than you can imagine. The crowd fell silent, confusion drawn across every face. Guests exchanged wild looks, disbelief clutched their hearts. Victor could hardly breathe. You've been dead all this time? No, Victor, she said gently. That was a lie. I was never gone. I've been living in the shadows, orchestrating our family's safety from Malcolm's insidious reach. I had to protect you from the truth that Malcolm is your brother. Gasps echoed through the room. The words hung like fog, thick and murky. Victor staggered back, hands trembling, as everything he thought he knew imploded. My brother? He gasped, fear gripping him like a vice. What do you mean? Your father and I, we had to protect you both, living separate lives to keep you safe, she said, desperation creeping into her tone. Malcolm was the sacrificial pawn, a diversion from what has always been our father's vendetta. Panic flared. But I thought... Victor felt the universe shatter in his mind. I thought he was the enemy. How could you let me live that lie? Because we had a chance to stop him. But with your engagement and the return of secrets long buried, all hell has broken loose, she replied, grief and regret crashing over her words. And now it's all about to spiral out of control. Suddenly, the ballroom door burst open again, sending a chill through the crowd. In stepped Malcolm, flanked by men in black, sinister confidence radiating from him. "Oh, did I interrupt a family reunion?" Malcolm sneered, eyes glinting with malice. Victor felt a surge of rage. "You're a monster!" he shouted. "Am I?" Malcolm laughed, amusement dancing in his gaze. "No, Victor. I'm the truth you've all been running from. And now that the pieces are in motion, it's game on." As he spoke, the lights flickered wildly once more, and Victor felt a sharp pang in his heart. "Enough!" he roared. But before he could react, the masked intruders lunged forward, and chaos erupted again. Elena screamed. In mere seconds, the ballroom became pure pandemonium. Then, with a single vicious blow, everything changed. Victor's mother turned to him, a sudden flash of betrayal in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Victor," she said, raising her hand. A glimmer of something sinister flickered around her. "I did this all for you, but I cannot let you stand in the way of destiny." With those words, she revealed a hidden gun, pointing it straight at Malcolm. Time stopped. Victor's heart sank. Was she betraying him too? Did she plan this all along? "Don't!" he cried, the knot in his throat tightening painfully. But there was no stopping what was coming. As the gunfire rang out, lives hung in the balance, the air heavy with dread and confusion. Relationships shattered in the blink of an eye. What had just happened? Victor felt his world tilting again. The game was far from over. The truth had just scratched the surface, but what lay beneath was more dangerous than anyone had imagined. In that moment, beneath the noise of chaos, a new urgency clawed at him. What secret had he uncovered that could potentially destroy everything he loved? And who would survive the night? Victor staggered as the echoes of his mother's words hung in the air, heavy with confusion. Time felt suspended, a fragile glass teetering on the edge of a cliff. Just then, a gunshot rang out, loud and piercing. Everything froze. A body fell to the ground. "No!" Victor screamed, his heart racing. He stumbled forward, the crowd parting around him, shocked gasps filling the room like a wave. When the dust settled, it became clear. Elena crumpled on the floor, eyes wide, glassy, her body still. The realization thundered through him. "Elena!" he shouted, dropping to his knees beside her. He could barely breathe, pain stabbing through his chest like the bullet that had struck her. Time snapped back into motion as chaos erupted again, screams melding with the gasps of horrified guests. "Somebody help!" Sarah cried, rushing to his side. But the world turned to wool in Victor's ears. He felt numbed by the sight, the weight of his mother's confession now suffocating. "Why?" he managed to choke out, looking up at Malcolm, who stood laughing, the masked figures lingering behind him. Malcolm crouched closer, a glint of satisfaction dancing in his eyes. "Oh, Victor, you really didn't think I'd let love win, did you?" The crowd gasped, whispers spiraling, people pretending to care, but only interested in the shock, the scandal. Thinly veiled judgment rippled through them, the atmosphere cold and suffocating. Victor felt the world around him blur. Blood pooled beneath Elena, vibrant and shocking against the marble floor. It was all too much. A cocktail of grief and rage boiled inside him, sparking an undeniable urge to lash out. But then another silhouette moved behind Malcolm, and the room shifted. It was Athena. Her eyes, wide and pleading, darted around the crowd, desperate for a way to make sense of the madness. "Victor," she shouted, reaching out. "Listen to me, this isn't what it seems." "What isn't?" he spat, punctuating his words with pain. "A family secret runs deeper than you know." She moved closer, pushing through the throng. "Malcolm isn't just your brother. He's not who you think he is." Malcolm sneered at her, one hand raised, snapping his fingers. "Enough of this." Suddenly, from behind the screen of chaos, more figures emerged. Troops bearing badges, guns drawn, fanning out, securing the exits. Gasps escalated, and Victor felt the tension spike again. Malcolm's face twisted in frustration. "This was not part of the plan," he growled, eyes narrowing as the officers encircled him, commanding the room. Victor's heart raced, panic and disbelief mixing. "What are you involved in, Malcolm?" But the response came not from Malcolm. Instead, a tall, commanding officer stepped forward. "Victor Thorne, we need you to step back." Victor's pulse quickened. "Why? What's going on?" The officer's gaze fell heavy on him. "Your family connections run deeper than you realize. You're entangled in something far bigger than a simple family feud. This involves money laundering, corporate espionage, and even murder." A chill cascaded through him as he processed the words. They didn't just mean Malcolm. They included his family, his mother. "Your mother has been shielding the truth all along," the officer continued, his voice steady. "It's imperative you cooperate." "Cooperate?" Victor shouted, the raw anger swelling inside him. "You think I can trust any of you? You're all part of it." "All of it." The officer straightened, then pointed towards Malcolm. "This man is not your brother. He's a plant, an agent sent to destroy your family from within." The words crashed into him, sending ripples of disbelief. Victor felt as if he'd been kicked in the gut. Would it ever end? "Victor," his mother spoke softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I never wanted this." "How could you?" he whispered, pulling away, both physically and emotionally, shattered by every revelation that unraveled before him. As the chaos continued, the officer stepped closer to Malcolm, but just then, Athena shouted, "No, you don't understand. In this tangled web, we need to focus on what matters most." "What matters, Athena?" Victor asked, his voice trembling. "Your real mother?" she began, eyes fierce. "She didn't just disappear. She was taken, and Malcolm knows where she is. The room went silent, each person hanging on the precipice of disbelief. "What?" Victor breathed, hope flickering through the darkness. And as a final storm of chaos erupted all around them, he faced the bitter truth. This game was much bigger than he could ever have imagined. The fight was not just for his heart, but for the very heart of his family. Could he trust anyone anymore? And most importantly, would they uncover the real story before it was too late? Victor felt the chaos swirl around him, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he knelt beside Elena. The life pouring from her was a nightmare he couldn't bear. Panic surged in his chest, tighter than a vice. How had it all come to this? A bullet? He trailed off, heart pounding as he looked up at his mother. "Is this what you meant by protecting me?" "Victor, listen," she pleaded, eyes glossy with emotion. "Malcolm will use this to destroy everything." Malcolm chuckled darkly from the sidelines, eyes darting between Victor and his mother, enjoying every moment of the spectacle. "You think I've played all my cards? Keep watching, dear brother." Athena moved closer, her voice urgent. "Victor, you need to focus. You are stronger than you know. Don't let this define you." The weight of those words grounded him, pushing through the haze of despair. With a newfound resolve, Victor rose to his feet, glancing back at Elena. "I will save you," he shouted. But the urgency in his voice was cut by another sound, an explosion. Flames erupted toward the ceiling, flickering dangerously close. The ballroom was now an inferno, smoke billowing as people rushed to escape. It was chaos. It was a massacre in slow motion. "Get out now!" the officer barked, pushing Victor closer to the exit. "No, I can't leave her," he yelled back, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Victor!" Elena's voice was a fragile whisper, her eyes flickering with awareness. "You have to go. You owe it to us, to your family." "No, you're my family." He couldn't move. It felt like chains bound him to the floor, heavy despair weighing on him. Just then, Malcolm made his move, weaving through the scattered chaos, weapon in hand. "You can't run from your destiny, Victor," he hissed. Victor felt the heat rising, both from the flames and his fury. "I'll stop you!" As Malcolm raised his weapon, Victor felt time slow. Everything came down to this moment, the weight of the truth bearing down heavily. He heard a firm voice call out behind him, and, instinctively, Victor turned. His mother took a step forward, confronting Malcolm. "This ends now," she declared, her voice cut with fierce determination. In a flash, she pushed past Malcolm, and everything seemed to collide. The gunfire ignited, a loud bang ringing in their ears. Victor stood frozen as his mother lunged at Malcolm, tackling him to the ground. "Run, Victor! Mom!" But it was too late. Amidst the confusion and chaos, Athena leaped forward, securing Elena in the chaos of bodies fleeing the scene. "We'll save her!" she screamed, fighting through the smoke. Victor, filled with heart-stopping fear, made his choice. With one look back to his mother, now rolling on the ground with Malcolm in a desperate struggle. He dashed to Elena. "Hold on! Help is coming!" But as he reached her, she smiled softly. "I believe in you, Victor." Her words cracked something inside him. He wouldn't lose hope. The fire raged around them, but he would fight for her. The moment ignited a spark, an ember of resolve deep within. Together, Victor and Athena lifted Elena, cradling her carefully as they weaved past the chaos, escaping the ballroom. Outside, the cool night air hit them like a rush, freedom lingering just beyond their reach. As sirens blared and chaos erupted, the remnants of betrayal loomed on the horizon. The truth hung like a storm cloud, heavy yet electric. They were alive, but at what cost? "Victor," Athena gasped, pointing back to the building. "We need to go back. Your mother!" But as they turned, the flames danced higher, illuminating the night sky. The whole world felt like it was collapsing around them, a twisted reality redefining their futures. Victor grabbed Elena's hand tightly, his heart racing. "We can't lose anyone else. I'll always find a way." Somewhere in the darkness, an ember of hope flickered. They were a family, forged in shadows and secrets, but together they could reclaim the truth. As the smoke billowed behind them, Victor's gaze sharpened. He wouldn't rest until he uncovered every last secret and put an end to Malcolm's twisted game. With Elena and Athena by his side, they would face the battles ahead. Life might never be the same, but they would stand as one. In the air of uncertainty, questions loomed. What truths awaited them, and what would they have to sacrifice to find the light? Now, before you go, you must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Click the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know how it ends. Don't wait another second to share this. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions.